All right, unfortunately, that's all the time we have left this evening. As always, thank you for being with us. We hope you'll set your DVR so you never, ever, ever, ever miss an episode of Hannity. Don't forget, for news anytime, every time, all the time, foxnews.com, Hannity.com. Uh-oh. I'm getting a heads up in my ear. Something's going on. Laura's up to something. Let not your heart be troubled. The Ingraham angle is now.
Okay.
What now?
Well,
okay.
You know, we just celebrated our 5th anniversary. This is like the Cher's farewell concert, right? It never ends. Like, remember, she was always retiring, and then she never retires. So this is like the 5th anniversary. It never ends. So my great crack producers put together a little tribute to 5 years of crosstalk with Sean Hannity.
No. This is going to be bad. This is going to be. You get paid a lot of money to do a show. You've got to be prepared for the handoff.
By
the way, now that my show's over, I want to take this stupid thing off. What?
America, this is the Hannity striptease, okay? We already have enough.
It's not the Hannity striptease.
Okay, so, Sean, I would pay for you to do a live rap throw to me one night, and I'll try to do a rap back.
Hang on, just wait for me. I'll be right there. Hang on one second.
God.
I'm going to walk right over. I'm literally walking into the next studio. No, this is how close I am to you.
Make sure the lighting is really, shadowy.
Yeah, make it shadowy. Laura.
All right, Hannity, I'm glad you have your tie on. I thought you were going to wear like one of those, really narrow. Is this going to be a strip tease every night? This is a shameless
strip tease.
Yeah.
Oh,
Why stop there? I can't go on. Take the hour. I can't do it. I can't do it.
All right, and this is extended hour of Hannity tonight.
No, I'm taking it back. Nice try.
Apparently, we lost Laura's signal, which is fine with me because I'm a talk show host and I never shut up.
I'm
African American.
I'm back.
Well, just you can say thank you for bailing me. I wanted to finish my monologue.
Okay, no script.
No, wait.
I'm getting to these issues.
That is the American flag.
Okay, it doesn't look like it. That's a Chinese-made flag.
Would you
right,
like
Hannity. Yeah, we're out.
I'm going to say good night.
All right, good.
There you go.
That's it. Oh, wow. Look out, Tom Jones. Okay. That's for the really old crowd out there. But by the way, Samantha noticed you actually had the same yellow tie on tonight that I think you were wearing 4 years ago. I think it's the same one. But thank God you threw it off in the middle.
I don't change much. All right, first, can I say one serious thing?
Yes.
You've had 5 unbelievable, amazing years here on Fox. We're so proud of you. You're such a critical part of our team. It is a team here at Fox, and your show's so successful. We're proud of you. We're happy for you. Here's for another 15 years. How many more years are we going to keep doing this?
I don't know, but this is. But all I can say is, when you're nice, it's really hard to react to that. No, Sean, thank you, and it always makes it fun. Okay, so but we lost the tie, but you're a frugal person, so it's the same tie as 4 years ago. I like that. Okay, Sean, you're the best. Great show tonight. All right.
All right. Listen, congratulations. Happy 5th year anniversary.
Thank you. We'll be celebrating it for the next month. All right. I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle from Washington tonight. Elect them or else. That's the focus of tonight's angle. All right, Joe Biden is an unrepentant liar. Because he can't beat Republicans fair and square, he's trying to criminalize their very existence. He fabricates phantom scenarios with half-truths.
There's an alarming rise in the number of our people in this country condoning political violence or simply remaining silent, because silence is complicity. We can't allow this sentiment to grow. We must confront it head on now.
Now? Well, confront what? People who happen to disagree with Joe Biden and the Democrats? Well, that doesn't sound very fair. And how do you intend to confront them, Mr. President? By surveilling them? Or hounding them? Trying to get them fired? Canceled? I thought you were a public servant, not the public's master. Bottom line, I can't think of anything more irresponsible than a president who tells the world that America is a democracy only if his party wins. But that's exactly what the White House has been doing consistently, really since he was sworn into office. Last night was embarrassing for both the president and our country. No policy, no effort to bring the country together, just fury and personal invective toward Republicans.
It's estimated that there are more than 300 election deniers on the ballot all across America. this year. We can't ignore the impact this is having on our country. It's damaging, it's corrosive, and it's destructive.
Presumably then, if the Democrats lose, and if folks like Kari Lake, Tudor Dixon, Tiffany Smiley, Don Baldock are elected, well, Biden will not recognize them as legitimate leaders. If certain governors or senators are destructive and corrosive, as he said, and is essentially, they're all enemies of democracy, then why would Democrats ever even cooperate with them? Now, given the track record of the sleazy Biden team, I wouldn't at all be surprised if they took their implicit threats a step further and used the full force of the federal government to make the lives of any of these newly elected Republicans miserable. I'm talking audits, phony investigations, information leaks, and yes, surveillance. Heck, they've done it before. They've got the whole deep state and the regime media. They got them ready to do their bidding. And they're now issuing final warnings.
The president decided a few days ago that it was important to issue one final warning on this issue, to make very clear, to leave no doubt, that we have people out there still peddling the big lie, people now raising the issue of election denial in this election. And, of course, the horrible incident involving Speaker Pelosi and her family, showing the rising threat of political violence.
A final warning. What a bizarre negative closing argument to America. Again, implicit in this message is that if Democrats do not win, then America has failed and we're no longer even a democracy. Now, once again, Democrats are engaged in the inartful exercise in projection. They claim Republicans are against democracy, but it's the Democrats who are. They're, in effect, questioning the legitimacy of the midterms because the candidates themselves are illegitimate, they think, because they're mega MAGA.
The extreme MAGA element of the Republican Party is trying to succeed where they failed in 2020, to suppress the right of voters and subvert the electoral system itself. That means denying your right to vote and deciding whether your vote even counts. Instead of waiting until an election is over.
Whose idea was that speech? But let's fast forward for a moment here. These words do matter. Now, what if, listening to the president, the world begins to treat America as a pariah state? Basically, one that's on the verge of revolution. What if other countries refuse to cooperate with us on issues like Ukraine and Taiwan? Is that really what Biden wants? Would it make him happy? It certainly would make this so-called historian happy.
We could be 6 days away from losing our rule of law and losing a situation where we have elections that we all can rely on. A historian will say what was at stake tonight and this week was the fact whether we will be a democracy in the future, whether our children will be arrested and conceivably killed. We're on the edge of a brutal authoritarian system.
If being a blowhard is a qualification for winning the Pulitzer, then Beschloss definitely deserves one. Okay, and before you say, oh, those are just the words of one historian, Laura, big deal, remember, Beschloss was invited to the White House along with other thinkers in August, was invited by Biden himself to craft messages about democracy. So if we're on the edge of a brutal authoritarian system where our children could be arrested, that would lead many left-wing activists to extreme measures. And, I mean, extreme measures should perhaps be taken to prevent these illegitimate candidates from winning. I mean, again, if that's really what is happening here, what if left-wing activists turn to violence? For a party that's about policing speech, it should start watching its own words. But he's just a snob, just like the other people who appear regularly on MSNBC's morning show. They think they're better than you. The online publication Salon can't hide its disgust for GOP voters with this hilarious headline: Is America ready to trade democracy for cheap gas? That's fascism in a nutshell. A leftist writer by the name of Chauncey DeVega sneers that Americans are unsophisticated in their understanding of politics and policy. They're in full meltdown mode over there, my friends. I love reading Zalan every now and then. Another silly scribe named Amanda Marcotte is claiming that insurrectionists are poised to take power across the country and goes on to blame low information voters who will elect them. Voters who are incorrectly blaming Biden for inflation. Okay, their Save Democracy pitch is the height of hypocrisy. There's a long list of liberal groups that have refused to accept the Trump presidency: Hillary Clinton, the Democrat establishment, the media. And let's not forget the entertainment elites back in, 2017. They wanted Trump stopped before he even started.
Picked up the Washington Post, and the headline read, "Trump takes power." I don't think so.
But the president is not America. His cabinet is not America.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Oh, Madge. Now, as the Angle has said many times, this is a sad ending for the party of FDR and JFK. You can't browbeat someone into loving you, and you can't browbeat them into voting for you either. We've talked a lot about Biden's lies, but here's the truth. Our new populist conservative movement is our only hope of saving a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Because for decades, our political leaders largely ignored what we wanted. And they felt that they could just keep policies in place like open borders, endless wars, and free trade with China. No matter who was in office, they did that. But now that's coming to an end. The people are on the march. We're getting new leaders, leaders who trust and listen to the American people. And the old establishment hacks who've run this country into the ground, well, they're going to be looking for work. That's what democracy really looks like. And that's The Angle. Joining me now is Molly Hemingway, editor-in-chief of The Federalist and Fox News contributor, and Chad Wolf, former Trump acting secretary of Homeland Security. Great to have you both in studio. Molly, we just learned tonight that Biden's DOJ is mulling a potential special counsel if Trump even runs in 2024. Quite the democracy defenders, these folks.
Right. We have a Department of Justice that has gone after. I saw the speech where President Obama said, we don't want to have a country where people would be persecuted for what they say. We have a Department of Justice that has gone after pro-life activists, arresting them, raiding their homes, a Department of Justice that has had completely unequal standards of how they handle problems, that has actually targeted their primary political opponent, the former president, Donald Trump, now leaking that they would like to maybe come up with new ways to go after him in order to keep the American people from being able to choose their own leaders. The idea that this would all be wrapped up in this like tagline of democracy is absurd. People are going to practice democracy. They're going to practice voting to pick who they want to have lead them. And that is a good thing, not a bad thing, even if Democrats say otherwise.
More people are voting in this midterm, it looks like, than we've seen maybe ever.
Yeah.
Is that democracy or not? It sounds like democracy to me. Chad, we heard that the DHS is now issuing new warnings about right-wing domestic terror in the country. We don't hear quite very much about left-wing terror, of which we've seen actually play out over the last few years in the Summer of Love and other things. What's going on here?
Well, it's interesting. You know, we hear the president and this administration talk about these threats to democracy, but if you go back after President Trump, even before President Trump got into office, you saw riots, right? Day of and the week after, and then in the summer of 2020, you saw BML riots, you saw Antifa and the like. No special committee there, no select committee. They didn't talk about any of this. So I think it's politically convenient for them to talk about this now.
Yeah, BLM was out there buying houses with the money that they were raising. But we saw a country that was in turmoil, and it was a wink and a nod by the Democrats on what was happening on the ground there.
Well, I think that's right. And I personally saw this in Portland. And it didn't happen one day, 1 week, or 1 month. It happened over 93 nights in Portland, where they were targeting law enforcement and trying to burn down a courthouse. But you didn't hear anything about threats to democracy. You didn't have calls to have investigations about this. They kind of just blew that aside.
Isolated.
In fact, Representative Clyburn, who's one of the leaders of the Democrat Party, said that bringing coming after the rioters was a threat to democracy. Right. That's actually what he said in July of 2020, that having any kind of law enforcement or rule of law in Portland months into their siege of a federal courthouse was itself a threat to democracy, he claimed.
Chad, White House advisor Keisha Lance Bottoms is now inventing threats. Check it out.
As of now, there are no credible threats towards any polling places on the election day, but just the fact that we are having to have this conversation in 2022 really speaks to the necessity of the speech that the president gave last night.
Chad, they're needlessly riling people up, and it's like they're stoking. You know, fire's going. Stoke it with a poker. It seems like that's what they're doing here.
There's any number of threats facing the homeland every single day, but if you have no credible threats, then what is it that you're pushing? Right. What is it that you're pushing to state and local law enforcement and getting on, national television to talk about? There's no credible threats. I mean, there's 100 things that you could talk about that are potential threats to the homeland. If there's nothing credible, if they don't have any specific information, I'm not sure what it is that they want law enforcement to look at.
Right, and we're going to get to the border in a second, but Molly, I need to get your reaction to, speaking of words mattering, this vitriol coming from the ladies on The View today.
White Republican suburban women are now going to vote Republican.
Why?
It's almost like roaches voting for Raid, right?
You're not voting for Republicans. You're voting for a cult. Remember that. It's a cult. It's not Republicans anymore.
Molly, no comment on that from parent company Disney about those comments about women are roaches.
I can't imagine.
These are big feminists, by the way.
I can't imagine anyone saying that about any Democrat group and getting away with it in any way. Although I do have to say, it's almost funny to watch this meltdown that's happening on the left.
They're in
They
full
clearly
meltdown
are
mode.
expecting a very bad night on Tuesday. They are losing all control of their senses. They're bullying people, and I don't think it's a very wise campaign strategy. But if you can, you can almost laugh at how absurd they are.
But Chad, I think right now Americans are afraid. But they're not afraid really about the things that the Democrats think they should be afraid of. They're afraid of the economy completely tanking. They're afraid of the border being open. We saw a surprisingly disgusting video coming out of the border today with, the sheer numbers of people. They're afraid of what's happening with real crime in their streets. So they are afraid, but they're not afraid of democracy going away because Republicans win. It's a bad strategy for the Democrats. I'm actually shocked they're still doing it.
Well, it's not only a bad strategy. I mean, I think what you mentioned that Salon article from earlier. What they want you to believe is the American people should be more concerned about January 6th than the economy, than putting food on their table, gas in their cars. And it's a ridiculous argument that I think the American people have dismissed. The real threat to democracy, if we want to talk about it, is tearing down border security and letting hundreds of thousands and millions, up to 5 million.
We probably have 10 million people here now that are
10 million here illegally, half of which you probably don't even know who they are. And so there's a lot of public safety threats and national security threats. I think that is a threat to democracy.
Yeah, that's a pretty big one, don't you think, Molly?
Yeah, they're in a complete bubble, and that is going to be punctured in a few days.
This is going to be fun to watch. Molly and Chad, great to see you both. Thank you. And up next, the D.C. City Council's response to runaway crime. Well, reducing sentences and a few other tidbits you will not believe. Senator Tom Cotton is here in studio with a new bill putting Democrats on the record. Plus, African Americans increasingly view crime as the top issue ahead of the midterms. So why are they being ignored? Congressman Byron Donalds and Amala Ekpunobi react. Stay there.